Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie inside. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie, let's talk. Galla maħrijan bolda. YouTube te live hardin crowd rolda. Storjan sarġjan dilton o bolda. Biggie, let's talk. Sin pura holda.
Biggie, let's talk. Everybody tune in when the beat drop. Biggie, let's talk. Real vibes, real people, never gonna stop. Yeah. Biggie, let's talk. Subscribe to me on YouTube, run it non-stop. Yeah. Biggie, let's talk. Like hype and stuff, take it straight to the top. Yeah.
Biggie, let's talk. Biggie, come see me. Yap, shop and gossip is what you need. Oi, Biggie, let's talk. Oi, Biggie, let's talk. Biggie. Let's talk. Biggie, let's talk. Biggie, let's talk. Biggie, come see me. Gap, shop and gossip is what you need. Oi, Biggie, let's talk. Oi, Biggie, let's talk. Biggie.
Let's talk.
Biggie, come see me. Gap, shop and gossip is what you need. Oi, Biggie,
Let's talk.
Let's talk.
oi, Biggie,
Let's talk.
Let's talk.
It's just Biggie, come let's talk.
Biggie, let's talk. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie inside. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie, let's talk. Galla maħrijan bolda. YouTube te live hardin crowd rolda. Storjan sarġjan dil. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip. Interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip. Interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Watch the gossip, interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip, interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip, interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip, interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie inside. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie, let's talk. Galla makhriyan bolda. YouTube te live hardin crowd rolda. Storyan saċjan dilto o bolda. Biggie, let's talk. Sin pura holda. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie inside. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie, let's talk. Galla makhriyan bolda. YouTube te live hardin crowd rolda. Storyan saċjan dilto o bolda. Biggie, let's talk. Sin pura holda. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie inside. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie, let's talk. Galla makhriyan bolda. YouTube te live hardin crowd rolda. Storyan saċjan dilto o bolda. Biggie, let's talk. Sin pura holda. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie inside. Yo, Biggie inside. Biggie, let's talk. Galla makhriyan bolda. YouTube te live hardin crowd rolda. Storyan saċjan dilto o bolda. Biggie, let's talk. Sin pura holda. Yo. Yeah, Biggie, let's start. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip, interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yeah, Biggie, let's start. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip, interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Yeah, Biggie, let's start. Yo, Biggie, watch the gossip, interviewing the best, finding out the tips and tricks. Yeah, Biggie, let's talk. Biggie, let's talk, Biggie, let's talk. Biggie, let's talk, Biggie, come see me. Gap shop and gossip is what you need. Oi, Biggie, let's talk. Oi, Biggie, let's talk. It's just Biggie, come, let's talk. Biggie, let's talk. Biggie.
Enough of that. Welcome to Biggie Let's Talk, episode 77, I believe. But I'm back today with Manjinder K Nagra, who we had a few technical difficulties with the other day on Wednesday. So hoping Manjinder's here. Gonna bring it in a second, but in case you didn't know who she is, she's just breaking barriers left, right, and center. So represented a country at the highest level, not just one sport, but two. Yeah. She's a keynote speaker. So, you know, you get these people that talk in like high-end places. She could do all that. I've seen her actually do that. So, but yeah, so big up to her, because I was too scared to do it. So she said, I'll do it. And then she's also just recently become Sumo champion, for England, and then represented England girls, ladies, I should say, at student level, and also now she's a global ambassador for the SikhGames. So let's bring in our champion.
Hi, Biggie.
How's it going, man? You all right?
Good. TikTok?
Yeah, let me get you out that. Let me get that out of your face. How's things?
Yeah, good. Bit better than the other day where we had a few
much
technical
better.
issues.
Yeah, it's much better. Is that because you got you're on a laptop, ain't you?
Yeah.
Makes life much easier. How you doing? Are you good?
Yeah, good. Bit hot. It's
I was gonna say, are you enjoying the heat?
It's 39 degrees, man. It's too much.
That's 39. Actually, maybe in the peak time it was, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it's fine. It's difficult. You know, it's difficult for everyone, I think. So I'm no.
Okay, you're going to mostly be end up repeating the first few questions, but I'm going to ask you them anyway.
That's all right.
So, how did you get into uni? How did you get not uni? How did you get into rugby? Let's start from that one.
Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up in Slough, you know, and was predominantly in a household. Well, my brothers that were football fans. So I grew up as a football fan and supported my local team, like I said yesterday, Liverpool FC, as everyone did back then in the 80s. And, you know, so I was really massive into football, watching it, obviously, because girls weren't allowed to play then. And then I went to the University of Bath and didn't know it was a rugby city or anything, and just was literally bumped into a group of women who had these jerseys on the back it said Bath RFC. And I said to them, what does the R stand for? Because I knew what FC stood for. And they were like, rugby. You know, they were like, do you fancy playing? I was like, I didn't know much about rugby, but I knew it was like, you know, a bit rough, didn't really fancy that. So I was like, no, I don't want to bust my teeth. And they were like, well, wear a gum shield. No, I don't want to wear shorts where you can wear tracky bottoms. So for every like reason I was giving to say no, they were coming up with a solution. And they were also like super friendly because I did try out another sport as well. It was lacrosse, but I just felt like a square peg in a round hole. And yeah, I just kind of felt a good fit with the rugby. And and then started playing there. And then rest is history, really.
Okay, did you have any rugby inspirations, any players? Because all I remember is like Will Carlin. There was a guy called Bill Bowman that used to come on Question of Sport. And that's about it, really. And there's the Underwood brothers.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, at the time when I got into rugby, I didn't have anyone that I knew really because I'd never watched it, you know. And unbeknown to me, there'd been a Women's Rugby World Cup just a few years prior, I think it was, or something like that. So, you know, and we had some really big names, you know, in the women's fraternity, but I didn't know of them because they weren't on the telly or anything. Yeah. But yeah, so some of the England rugby team men's team did used to come and train at Bath University. So I knew of the Underwood brothers, Will Carling, Jeremy Guscott, those sort of people. But at the time when I started playing rugby, I played in a position that was in the front row. So I very much loved watching people like Victor Abugu, who played for Bath, Jason Leonard. They both played for Bath. They both played for England. So you know, it was kind of like mostly men's rugby that I was watching, and you know, kind of wanting to be.
And when you played, were you like in the scrum? Did you say?
Yeah, I was in the scrum. So I started out in the front row. So what tends to happen, I'm told, in rugby is you start like if you're a forward, you tend to start in the back row and then make your way forward. Yeah. And I did the opposite. I started in the front row and then started to make my way back over the years in the scrum. So by the end of it, I finished off as like number 8, mostly playing for my local team here.
Brilliant. So when it comes to rugby and Sikh women, are you the only person that's repped? Or is it anyone else?
I mean, as far as I know, I mean, I'm happy to be, you know, I would love to be stand to be corrected, but you know, there's a mate of mine, Jill Burns. She actually was captain of England back in that era, and you know, I did ask her whether there were any others that I think at one time, I think I might have not said Sikh but Asian, but anyway, as far as I know, I mean, I'm sure someone would have like come up and said if they were, but that's my understanding.
And what was it like when you broke it to your family? Because I know your brothers, and they're not like you said, they're football people. But even though they look like rugby guys, they're quite big guys and they can look after themselves. But,
I mean, so you know, I was, you know, it was a surprise to me mostly that, you know, within a short period of time, I got selected to play for England students. And I was unfortunately a bit riddled with injury in that time that I played. And unfortunately, my mum's worst nightmare, I broke my collarbone a day before I was supposed to play against Wales students.
Damn.
And then, yeah, anyway, and then I broke it, and the other one a bit later on when I played in the Northwest. But yeah, when I told the family, if I'm really honest, I'm not even sure my mum knew what rugby was, or you know, my brothers were proud though. Don't get me wrong, like they were dead proud. You know, they were chuffed. But there wasn't really an appreciation of what rugby was, or what that was. You know, yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so being the first Sikh to represent at that level must have been a proud feeling. Yeah, for yourself and the community as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like at the time, I didn't know that I was, you know, like at the time, it was just me playing rugby. You know, I didn't, you know, I could count on one hand the number of, I'm not talking about Sikh, I'm on about Asian women, like I played against, you know, in the 90s. And probably actually, you know, in the early 2000s. So, you know, it was, you know, I didn't realize that was breaking barriers back then. You know, I was just doing my thing and I was just playing rugby, you know, and I loved playing rugby. And to be honest, it was never really like a major thing, but I didn't, you know, I suppose the first time I realized that I was a bit different was actually, it was playing rugby. I mean, you know what it's like growing up in the 80s and 70s. You know, we were all used to, you know, racial abuse growing up as kids. Do you know what I mean? So that was nothing new. But I think, you know, when I went to university, you know, it was mostly, you know, it wasn't necessarily multicultural. You know, it's predominantly white, as you would expect. We're living in England, you know, all this thing. But yeah, when I played for a team up in the Northwest, and unfortunately, yeah, one opposition player, she wasn't very happy with me, the way I was playing, and she told me to F off, you dirty, and then N-word, of all words,
No
like
way.
not even the right words.
Not even the P word.
No, you know. So I think that was the moment, really, it kind of dawned on me. Like, I mean, obviously, like I say, we were used to racism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I remember going into that changing room that day, looking in the mirror and thinking, actually, no matter what you do, because you know, we all tried to be accepted, didn't we? Like, you know, you just wanted to be accepted wherever you went. You know, you're living these two worlds sort of thing. And but that was the moment, I think, I was in that changing room and I just thought, yeah, actually, you know, you're always going to be seen, your color is always going to be seen first, you know. And
100%.
And yeah, so that was quite a defining moment. Unfortunately, it was, you know, a horrible moment, and nothing happened. You know, the ref didn't, you know, the woman wasn't chastised. Like the ref blew his whistle, but she carried on playing. There was no report. There was nothing.
Did the ref actually hear it?
Huh?
Did the ref hear it?
Yeah, ref was right there. I mean,
Okay.
he did blow up, and I think he may have chastised her, but you know, like she carried on playing, and I had to come off in the end because I slightly sort of injured myself, and I mean, and again, probably it's just education, isn't it? So if that were to happen now, it'd be completely different. You know, there's more learning, people are more aware about that's not acceptable, it's not banter, and you know, now if that were to happen, I should imagine that person would go through the full disciplinary process. In fact, I'd make sure they did, because I sit on a discipline panel. So, but you know, back then it was just kind of like, yeah, it wasn't really, it was difficult as to how that was dealt. Mind you, my mate ended up, a mate of mine, she ended up, the opposition coach said to my friend, she says, why did you go and like punch that number 2, which was the one that had a go at me? She was like, well, she says, well, she was just walking towards me and I just thought, why not? After what you said to Manj. So, you know.
Okay, what challenges have you faced along the ways? Because obviously this is rugby. It's mostly more expensive buying kit for rugby than it is a football kit. Or is it the same?
Yeah, no, I mean, there were barriers, you know, there were financial barriers, absolutely. You know, I remember when I, you know, was trying to get, you know, so I got injured originally. I missed out on that first year of playing. And then unfortunately, I think the second year, wherever it was, I didn't get selected. So I basically got called up because there was an injury, unfortunately, for that particular person, and I got caught out. And I just remember, like, having to go to local restaurants trying to fund my boots, local pubs trying to fund my kit. Yeah, well, I didn't have any sponsorship. Even my train fare, up to Edinburgh, I remember back then when I was a student in the mid-90s, something like 70 quid, which was really expensive then, and it was all self-funded. So yeah, there were like financial barriers, but then you've got the other usual stuff. You had societal barriers. We weren't even, to be honest, women's rugby wasn't even accepted in the rugby fraternity back then. There were lots of stuff going on about how women should be playing, and but high profile men's players as well. Women should be playing, and then the wider society as well, where like women should be playing these sorts of tough sports and all this sort of stuff. And then of course, cultural barriers. I don't need to tell you, but I obviously had aspirations to play for the senior England team, eventually. And when I left university, I moved back home to Slough, and I was hoping to play for a local London club. And actually, a lot of my teammates and my English student teammates went on to play for England, and have done really well. They went on to represent for England. And actually, one of them I played with, she's now the British and Irish Lions head coach. Oh. But so, I was thinking, right, I'm on the right pathway. I'm still involved. So let's join the London team and see how far I can take this. But yeah, it's a usual sort of story. I often say my story was like a rugby version of Bend It Like Beckham, but when I went home, she got to realize her dream, but I didn't. So when I went home, it was very much, mum would never have let me go to wherever it was, Richmond, to go and play rugby, and certainly not like get a train back at night time in the winter and then walk from Slough Station. And you remember how rough Slough is, Slough Station to home on my own. And then there was the financial stuff. I had no money, and I didn't feel like I could ask my family for any money, because I had career development loans that needed paying off. And they were helping me with stuff like that. So yeah, I just felt like I couldn't do that really. And I also wanted to be like the daughter that they wanted me to be, which was so they wanted me to get married, get a job, settle down, and have kids. And that was kind of what I'd always expected, and kind of what I wanted at the time. And I was trying to sort of fit that mold, as it were. So yeah, but you don't realize there are barriers, to be honest, on the way. Yeah. You only look back on it on reflection, and really it was, I know we're going to talk about the SikhGames soon, but it was like Mandeep Moore, who's the current president of the SikhGames. She saw something on my LinkedIn profile on International Women's Day that had been forwarded to her, I think, I don't know, or something or other. And she said, Manjinder, I'm president of the SikhGames, and we're looking for ambassadors. And I was looking for a rugby ambassador. I didn't even think there were women, and now I found you.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So she was like, would you be an ambassador? And she said, and it was she said to me, I can't imagine the journey you've been on 30 years ago, telling your family you wanted to play rugby and you wanted to play for England, and all the stuff that you must have faced. And, when she said that, like, I didn't even realize, that I had sort of been carrying that, actually, to be honest. But when she said that, and I was like looking back, you look over your shoulder and you think, yeah, actually, maybe there were a few hurdles along the way. Do you know what I mean? Maybe there were some obstacles. And, I still get people now, like there's a chap that I know, and he was going, well, if you're good enough, you just make it. And actually, that's not quite, well, is it? Because, there is, does everyone have the same starting place? Does everyone have the same family support? Does everyone have the same funds? Probably not, And, I'm not saying I would have been good enough to play for England, but I mean, how different might it have been if I did have that kind of support to carry on playing and not have to think about giving it up.
Okay, how has rugby made you mentally and physically, prepared you for life?
Yeah, I mean, well, like with all sports, I'm a real believer that sport is, really empowering, and I think for me, mentally, it's taught me resilience. It's taught me that, yeah, the wins are great, but, sometimes there'll be losses, and it's kind of how you deal with those losses and those failures, and how you sort of pick yourself up again. Physically, at the time I was really fit. Unfortunately, in time we all, probably could do better. But yeah, I mean, physically, I was, it made me fit. It made me exercise. It made me, I had a goal, we'd get up at the University of Bath, and those that were representing, England or whatever sports they were, we'd get up twice a week, go circuit training up at the University of Bath, twice a week. And on top of that, I was playing rugby twice a week. So yeah, mentally and physically, just loads and loads of benefits. The benefits far outweigh some of the negatives, because obviously it is a
Bath is known as the rugby uni, isn't it?
Yeah.
What other unis are known as rugby unis?
Well, I think we only need to just know about University of Bath, don't we? No, I mean, there is Loughborough. Loughborough is really, known for its sport, and that was probably in terms of universities sporting competitors, it was always Loughborough Bath.
And what did you study at Bath Uni?
So I actually studied economics and politics originally, and then I did
It's like a side hustle.
Huh? Yeah.
It's like a side hustle.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't even know. Like, you can get scholarships and stuff nowadays, to go to university, but I didn't even know that was a thing. But I didn't even know about rugby before I went to university. So yeah, I studied economics and politics, and then I later did a conversion course to law up in the Northwest.
We're going to get to law in a bit. Okay, yeah, well, let's go back to the SikhGames. So you told us how you first got involved. So the Mandeep, the president, saw your LinkedIn profile, did you say?
Yeah, I think she'd seen a post that I'd posted for International Women's Day. And she said she was looking, they were looking to set up the SikhGames, and they were looking for ambassadors in our community. And, I have to admit, like, at first I was a bit hesitant, because you talked about community. And if I'm really honest, the community didn't support me, and also they wouldn't have known about me, to be fair, but they didn't support me. It wasn't really supportive. We weren't championing people in our community for sport. And, I suppose I was sort of, bit hesitant when she first asked me. And also, the first thing I said to her is, if you're looking for a devout Sikh, that's not me. Like, I parked religion when my dad died at 13, and I never really have brought myself to try and revisit it. However, I always think, well, I don't know, I just think born a Sikh, always a Sikh, whether you believe it or not. And I just think I'm proud of that, whether it's more, it's wrapped up with so many things, like my heritage, my culture, my upbringing, everything about it. It's just part of my identity. So, and I am a proud Sikh, and so
how important are the events like the SikhGames?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're really important. They encourage people to give stuff a go. I mean, we had this one Bibi. She says I always talk about her, but I think she's amazing. We had this one Bibi. She's the lead of one of the other regional leads. And she decided to give badminton a go and started training, I think, in the run-up to the SikhGames, and then medalled, and she's in her 70s,
Wow.
So, and I think we had one family where there were 3 generations. So SikhGames isn't just for the youth, it's for all generations. So we had a grandma, I think, and a daughter and a grandchild, all doing different sports, So, yeah, I think it's really, really important. And it just kind of, it just shows, I think, I just think we get written off as a community, not just the Sikh community, but all Asians, I think, in sport, that we're not involved, we're not engaged, but we are.
Yeah, so I think the SikhGames has grown, like, visibly and in participation every year. Because I didn't have nothing to do with the first year. That was the one in Nottingham. My first year was last year at Brunel.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of, it's still, I'm still surprised that I still meet people that haven't heard of it in our community. So it is, I do think there is a little bit of a blockage in terms of, the message getting out. It'd be really good if a lot of the Gurdwaras, would post. I'm sure they do. Don't get me wrong, they do. But, I just think, we need to be creating our own,
awareness on the event.
Awareness, and but the team are a really small team, so it's a lot of, and they all do it for Siva. No one's paid, no one's anything. So it's a really small team doing a lot of stuff, and you do get a lot of people, and quite rightly, we do want constructive feedback, but but at the same time, if you fed back, think about volunteering, think about being involved, because
Definitely.
The more that can help, the lighter the load, to make it even bigger and better. And actually, with the SikhGames, it's only new in England, in the UK rather, but actually it's been going on in Australia apparently for about 30 odd years, which is what inspired Mandeep to do it, because she'd ring family in Australia and they'd be talking about the SikhGames all the time. And I think it's running in Canada and India, and yeah. So it's kind of growing.
Fantastic. Okay, let's move swiftly on to sumo wrestling. How did you get into sumo?
Well, actually, this is the other thing. You can thank the SikhGames for that. So I was delivering. So I'm the ambassador lead, right? I try and look after the ambassadors as best I can. And I knew that we were having a new ambassador join us. And I kind of thought, well, I'll try and help with like onboarding him or kind of at least budding up with him. But anyway, I was doing my rugby taster, and his name is Mandeep Singh Kundi. He was doing a sumo taster. And my boy, as soon as he saw that, went straight over to his sumo little dojo, and then kind of we got chatting at the SikhGames, and we spent quite a lot of the day together. And he was 9 times GB champion, and I was like, oh my God. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, that's like amazing. And how do we not know about this man? And he's a giant of a man, right? Anyway, I just thought he was fantastic, and we kept in touch. And in the run up to Christmas, he'd sort of told me about this competition he was going to host at his club, because he's based at Brunel University as well. And he said, I'm hosting this competition in March. It'd be really good to get some Asian sisters involved, a bit of representation, Asian and, Black sisters, everybody. Here's a flyer. If you could share it, that'd be great. And then every time he sort of sent it, it'd be like ... And if you fancy getting into the ring, ? Which obviously I was like completely ignoring. And then I think the final time I just was like, oh my God, I think this bloke's like for real. And then I called him and he was for real. So, I know what it's like setting something up and how difficult it is. And I thought, you know what, obviously shared the flyer and stuff. And I thought, you know what, I'll just enter the competition, give him my 30 quid. And in my mind, I was just like, yeah, won't turn up, whatever. In fact, I think I had a clash anyway. But then as soon as I entered, which was, I think, literally on the deadline, kind of thought I was supporting him, really. But once I'd entered, then I just thought, well, why not sort of give it a go? And then I was in Slough, actually, with my family, and I went along to my first session, and I just came back, and I was like, this is not for me. I just was not really digging it, And then... but I don't like not liking things, so I gave it another go, and then gave it another go, and then very soon, the competition was coming up, and so in my training, I was fighting against men. So in the run up to the competition, I had my first bouts against women in a pre-competition friendly. There were only a couple of women, and I beat them. So going into the English National Championship, I thought, well, let's just give this a go, and there we are. And then I won the gold, and I got the silver in the Open. But it's all thanks to so now our community is more supportive and it is more engaging. And had it not been for Mandeep, really, Kundi, well, both of them really, had it not been for them like encouraging me or kind of seeing something, I wouldn't have been involved in sumo. I mean, I certainly didn't think like a year ago or when I was growing up that I'd be doing sumo. I mean, we just all watch it on the telly.
Why, you're an English champion?
English champion in my weight category, yeah.
How many people were in this competition that you entered?
Well, it's a small pool. Let's put it that way. It is a small pool. So, we've got, it's a growing sport. We've got like not many women involved in it. Probably like, I'd say at that competition, maybe there are about 150 people, of which there are probably no more than about 10 women. But as a result, so obviously I didn't know what that meant. I mean, I just won a couple of bouts, but that, I won, and there was only one that I didn't win. And then anyway, following that, actually, I think Mandeep had told me, but I didn't really acknowledge it. And then I got a message from England Sumo saying, we'd like to invite you to represent England in the European Championships, which are this weekend. And that's definitely going to be a tough gig. So there's going to be at least, I'm told, about 10 women in my weight category. And then I'll be doing the Open as well. So I don't know how many are going to be in that. It'll be more than 10. And then I'm also in the team event. So it's going to be a really challenging day for someone that really, 8 weeks ago, I was just a mum of 3, really unfit mum of 3, not doing anything active actually, to then having to, very quickly start a strength and conditioning program, I've been taking protein supplements. You know, it's just been crazy.
Were there any other Asian ladies in that sumo competition?
No. So, no. So again, there's not, you know, well, it's a small community anyway. And yeah, there isn't much representation, which is what, you know, I suppose Mandeep, you know, was sort of encouraging for us to try and change a little bit. Because actually, you know, it's good for everybody.
Oh, sorry. What is the mindset training different from sumo to rugby?
Look, I'm no sumo expert, right? I found myself in this position, like, just, I don't know how this has happened, but it has. So, I mean, for me, I've always been a team sport player, right? And so this is very different. It is a martial art. You are fighting for yourself. I mean, you know, there will be team events, but ultimately it's just you and that other person in that ring, you know. And like Mandeep was saying to me, you know, you've got to adopt a fighting mentality, which, you know, I've never really, in that way, never really had to sort of think about. But you know, I'm hoping that I'm going to do myself proud. You know, I'm hoping that. Well, actually, the ultimate reason I ended up in sumo, if I'm really honest, is that in the run up to it, my husband said to me, when I was hoping he would stand me down, like say, don't be ridiculous. We've got too much going on in our lives. Don't enter this. Don't start this new sport. He actually said to me, and it was like the jugular move, the killer move. He said, I think your dad would be proud. And so I had forgotten, well, not really forgotten, but, you know, my dad was a wrestler in India. And he wasn't just any old wrestler. So he was what they'd call a pulvan. Yeah, it was a name given to someone that was a powerful wrestler, a highly respected wrestler. You know, and that was all in India. So when he said that, I just started crying, and I was like, yeah, well, yeah, you know, yeah. It just maybe the stars are aligned, and I was meant to do this, you know.
Okay, final question: what message would you give to Sikh women, or women in general, actually, because you're such an inspiration, if they want to break into unconventional sport or any sport?
Well, I mean, I think if they want to, you know, the world's their oyster, and I would say just be brave, be bold, and break barriers. You know, don't let anyone hold you back, because you only get one life. You know, you only get one chance, and you know, we have spent too long as a gender being told what to do, and I think, you know, now's the time not to be told. Kind of follow your heart and follow your dreams, and you know. But obviously take ownership of your responsibilities, your decisions that you make. But yeah, I'd say be bold, be brave, and break barriers for sure.
Well, you've been a great example of that. Obviously, being a mother, having a full-time job, rugby when you were younger, and now sumo. So that's fantastic, Manj. But
yeah, I mean,
before we go, did you manage to nominate anybody?
Yeah, so I would nominate. In fact, I'm going to nominate a male and a female. One of them knows, one of them doesn't know. But I would like to nominate, may as well, I've been talking loads about him. So Mandeep Singh Kundi.
Is he going to be at the SikhGames again?
Huh?
Is he going to be at the SikhGames again?
Yeah, he's going to be at the
SikhGames. I see him there as well. Okay.
So Mandeep Singh Kundi, who is, as I say, 10 times GB champ. He's also going to be going up to this competition. All of us are going up to Stirling in Scotland. And then the other person is a woman called Anila Rose, and she is a lifter, weights, loads of weights, powerlifting and that sort of thing. So, but I'll just need to check with her that she's up for it. But I reckon you'd love speaking to both of them.
Fantastic, Manj. Thank you very much. You take care, and see you soon. I'll see you at the SikhGames. You take it easy, yeah?
Are you going to the awards? Maybe see you there.
The awards are 50-50 because I've got something on at home. But otherwise, I'll definitely be at the games.
Yeah, well, just for anyone that's listening, the Sikh Sports Awards are on the 4th of July. They're the first ever Sikh Sports Awards. It's going to be big. It's going to be fantastic. It's going to be sellout. So, you know, make sure you're there.
100%. Thank you very much, Manj.
All right,
Take care. All the best.
Cheers.
Peeps. Thank you.